and share a few interesting slides with everyone tonight so that you've got a great opportunity to just really engage with what I'd like to share with you. And there's a few others. Nancy down in Melbourne. Hi, Nancy. How are you going? Lovely to see you. And also Jennifer. Jennifer from Auckland. Oh, good on you. A little bit later over there, but lovely to see you online and welcome. So let's jump in and talk about this new way of communicating with clients. And our new program is called Spendsuasion. And it's a play on words, obviously. It's a play between spending and persuasion, because what we need to focus on today is our persuasion skills. And that's really where the quality of communication is heading in our industry. Selling is no more. And I officially want to ask you, stop selling, because it is passé. And definitely I'm noticing and hearing back from lots of people, well, they're getting pushback from clients and they're feeling a little uncomfortable. That is the clients. And well, I have to be frank with you, a lot of the girls I work with in clinics also feel a little bit uncomfortable being asked to sell. So let me jump into a few things tonight that's going to tease open a whole new category for you and show you a whole different way to either yourself or your team to communicate. And I think you're going to find this really interesting. We've been getting some fantastic responses. This is me, and I suppose I always have a chuckle when I see this photograph. I must get an updated photograph done, but isn't it interesting how we always post photographs of our younger selves? So yes, this is me pre-beard a few years ago. But my business is called The Sales Catalyst, and it's something that I started in my career 7 odd years ago, and have thoroughly enjoyed the difference I've been able to make for lots and lots of people in our industry, and also lots of people, especially in the beauty and laser clinic space. Some of the clients that I've been have worked with over the last 7 years now, some of the companies, some of the brands here, I'm sure that most of you would hear or know of most of them. There may be a few that are state-based that you may or may not be aware of, but look, a very good, strong cross-section across hairdressing, across beauty, and across aesthetics. And that's really my forte. That's where my world started as a youngster, and I've grown up and specialized in that space for many, many years. And my goal today is to give back. And my goal today is to share with you some of that wisdom that I learned along the way that truly changed my career path, and also managed to help quite a few others as well along the way. But I'll share more about that as we work through our webinar tonight. However, this webinar is not about me. It's really all about you. Let's be frank. And you're on here because you'd like to learn some new skills. And that's what I would very much like to share with you. This particular program is specifically designed and is very relevant if you're in the beauty industry. If you're a beauty or dermal therapist, a laser tech, a cosmetic injector clinician, a cosmetic physician, practice manager, or you are actually a salon or a clinic owner. This is an interactive webinar just for you. What I mean by that is that I've spent my life in this space, in this vertical market, and it's one that's rapidly growing. And I really want to share with you some fantastic ideas that I've been working with, and some really great results that we've been getting, especially over the last 2 years while I've been trialing this and finessing this program called Spendsuasion. I think you're going to find it really quite interesting. Let's talk about the pushiness that can come with selling, because what I get asked by a lot of people is they feel uncomfortable about the sales process. They feel uncomfortable about being asked to sell. They feel it's pushy. They feel it comes across in their language. And they quite often feel that, well, push doesn't work today. It may have years ago, but today it's no longer. And what I mean by that is that it means that, you know, our clients are becoming a lot more aware and a lot more sensitive to that very old style of conversation, trying to drive people to purchase. The other thing I find is that when I speak to therapists at large, and when I speak to many people in our industry, they go, look, selling's not what I want to do. I didn't, you know, join to be a hairdresser or to be a beauty therapist or a spray tan tech or whatever it is, whatever role you play within the greater part of our industry. But selling was definitely not high on your wish list. And yet It's a vital part of the skill that you're asked to deliver every single day. And, you know, a lot of the girls tell me it makes them feel uncomfortable. You know, it's just a matter of fact. It's discomfort. They feel that the clients pick it up, and they too seem to feel a little bit unauthentic, would be the words I would use. In other words, it doesn't feel natural. It definitely doesn't feel like it's being genuine and sincere. And this is the skill that we need to address. This is the habit that we need to change. It's definitely a problem that slows things down. And the other thing is, when we speak to the team about figures, about numbers, about wanting to grow the business or achieve their KPIs and all of these types of things, we tend to affect the way their day rolls. And I hear lots of therapists say to me that, well, they spend their day thinking about the figures. They spend their day thinking about targets and not really about the care of the client, which is where they really should be focusing. So, you know, it's affecting us on many, many different levels. So tonight I want to introduce you to this whole new concept, which is called Spendsuasion. And along the way, I'm going to give you 3 simple secrets that will really, truly impact on you and your team's approach to selling and upselling in-clinic treatments, add-on services, retail. And I want to do all of this without asking you to sell. I'm simply going to introduce you to a different approach, and one that I know works, and works really, really well. Excuse me. By way of background, I've been in the industry for most of my life. As I said, I grew up with mum as a young hairdresser, but one of the things I've observed is success leaves clues. Now, these sets of words, these are very famous words by a guy called Anthony Robbins, who I'm sure most of you know. And Anthony talks about, or Tony Robbins as he likes to be called these days, talks about success leaves clues. And what I mean by that is that we quite often so quickly judge people these days, rather than looking at what they do well. And, you know, we talk to a group of women in a clinic, we talk to a group of people in a clinic, and we say, you know, who's the best performer? And they all point to the same girl. And excuse me, but they will normally follow with the words, you know, bitch, or, you know, jealousy comes out because this particular young girl is really good in this space and yet others aren't. I don't take that view. I take a very different view. And my view is, I look at this young person and I go, can I ask you, what is it that you do that makes you so successful? I observe, I watch her engagement, I watch her body language, I listen to the words that she uses, and I go, what can I learn from that? And I study many, many businesses, and I've worked across large volumes of businesses, and some of them very large franchises. And what I do is I look for the most successful people, and then I look for what they do. And then I teach others in their way how they may be able to do something similar so that they may enjoy that success. And that's the true meaning of success leaves clues. We've got to look for the positive opportunity. We've got to look for what's really working for others. And that's where there's tremendous opportunity for growth, for personal growth, without judgment, but through observation. Excuse me. So the experience that I had as a youngster was, I used to work for a product company when I was 19 as a Weller rep, company called Weller, hair care company. I'm sure you've heard of them. And as a company representative, we were told and we were taught that we had to go around to our stockists in those days, hairdressing salons, and we had to teach them product knowledge. You know, this is a bottle of shampoo, and in it has aloe vera, it's pH of this, you know, and that's what we were told to teach. We were told, you know, that what hair type for it to be used on, or skin type these days, if we're talking skincare, but hair type, we needed to focus on key ingredients. And we need to talk about how those ingredients benefited the hair. And then we had to talk about how the actual product benefited the hairdresser, if there was a connection there. And, you know, I used to do that. But I started to realize something. And I started to realize that a lot of people were asking me questions, and it wasn't about, you know, what was in the product. They were asking me, how do I introduce this product to a client? How do I open up the conversation? How do I recommend it, or what we would call sell it? And that's what my clients wanted to hear. And that's what I started to specialize in. I started to specialize in how to open up the conversation, how to engage a client, good questions to ask a client, and to really listen. Because for me, selling is about gathering information. not telling people. Telling is very passé, and after all, as we all know, telling ain't selling. So we really needed to switch this around, and I felt I was very much a pioneer in my early days because the success I had was huge. Within 12 to 18 months, I became the #1 salesperson in New South Wales. By 21, I was the state manager of Queensland, and 22, the state manager back in New South Wales again. And I didn't do anything differently. I simply taught my clients how to actually sell the product through. Yes, I was a good salesperson and I could sell the product in, but that's not what it's about. It's about helping your stockists sell the product through. And that's where I had tremendous success. And the difference it made for many, even today, when I bump into them many, many years later, still comment about some of the strategies and tactics we used to use back then that were very genuine, heartfelt, and very, today we would use the word very client-centric, very focused around the client and the client's well-being and care. So let's now roll that across to where we are and where we find ourselves. Excuse me. Today, we're in the rapidly growing and fast-moving beauty and aesthetic industry, and it's definitely growing. There's no question about that, like everything. And let's just maybe look at some real numbers. And these numbers are getting published year after year, and they're moving around our industry right across the markets internationally. And most research I see is forecasting between a 12 and a 15% compound growth year on year for at least the next 5 to 7 years. And for me, that's all about us baby boomers getting old, but it's also about fashion. It's also about trends. It's also about hair removal, skin rejuvenation, injectables, and the many, many other new treatments that are starting to come through, or those that are still over the horizon. We are moving into a rapidly growing market, I should say, and one that is already yielding great evidence of strong returns and great financial returns for many who've been in the industry for quite some time. So if I had a crystal ball, what would this look like? So let's take some real numbers and actually throw them forward and actually start to look at, you know, what your potential is and where your business could be going. If we were to take a small business that was, say, turning over $10,000 a week, just for simplicity of multiplication, and we applied 12% growth compound, only 12%, year on year over 7 years, you would double your business. And you would go from having a $500,000 business to $1 million business. If all you do is keep up with the growth that the industry is forecasting. Wow, that matches real estate. And, you know, real estate's performed like lately. Wow. So, you know, what value could that be worth to you? And, you know, over the course of the next 7 years, if I could help you double your income, double your business's income, what impact would that have? What impact would that have on your lifestyle, the people in the business, your family, your security, your future? Many, many, many benefits associated with this beautiful and rapidly growing industry. And I must admit, out of all the different markets I work in, hair, beauty, body, and aesthetics, and some of the associated, the aesthetic industry is by far the one that's showing the most growth. Some of the other markets I referred to, especially hairdressing, openly discussed as being static. So, you know, we really are in a hot spot, and we need to really make sure that we're getting the best possible return from the effort and time that we spend in our business. Oh, by the way, don't let me forget, when we get to the end of tonight, I've got a couple of bonuses for you. So please remind me when we get there to make sure I give them to you. And they're worth hanging around for. So let me share those with you when we get there. So now let's start to look forward. You know, first and foremost, I think we all have to agree, especially over the last 10 years, clients have changed. They've changed rapidly. They're more educated than ever. And unfortunately, sometimes they even demonstrate that education in front of you by pulling out their phone and doing a comparison right in front of you. You know, their needs are different, and well, we need to also behave differently, because if we're still doing today what we were doing 10 years ago and expecting a different result, I really think you've got a real challenge on your hands, and your business may be showing some signs of that stress, because we need to move from this push strategy of selling to a more question-based strategy of persuasion. And that's where the growth truly lies. Selling is, as I said, old. It was invented many years ago and it uses many antiquated models, but the most common thing about selling is that first four-letter word, tell. Selling was all about telling. And, you know, I still see it today. I see lots and lots of therapists over-deliver. They tell, and they tell. And sometimes they almost get to a point of where they can't stop telling. And it really just doesn't get the cut through. And maybe at this point, I ask you to, you know, stop and think of a bad selling experience that you've had at some point. I hope not in our industry, but maybe in some other, where someone's tried to talk you into something. And it's a most uncomfortable feeling. Even myself, who lives in this space, still feels uncomfortable when I'm confronted with that approach, be it over the telephone or at the local Telstra store, which only just happened the other day. Another conversation for another time. But when we look at persuasion, persuasion is very different. Persuasion is about asking and truly listening, and, you know, not listening just with the intent to interrupt, which is what most people do because they're too busy wanting to get their opinion across, but to really truly listen as to what the perspective is, as to where that's coming from and what effect it's having on that client. You know, we could have 10 clients and they could all explain to us the same point. And yet once we ask them a few questions, we could find that there's 10 totally different perspectives across those 10 clients. Yet why do we offer the same answer to every one of those clients and wonder why 9 say no and only 1 says yes? I wonder. Excuse me. In my world, it works the other way around. And that is that we find out what's really going on in each person's mind, and then we give them the answer that they're looking for. Give them the answer that they need. That is where the gold lies. And it's simple, doesn't take any more time. It simply means we need to replace a behavior with a new behavior. It's that simple. So let's jump into some of the biggest mistakes I see and have come across, especially when I've been out training some of these larger groups and dealing with, you know, quite large volumes of staff. You know, the biggest mistake when they come to close a sale, I mean, a few of the girls here are sharing with you a few comments. They talk too much, so therefore they lose the perspective of where things are up to because they're too busy focusing on what they're saying rather than thinking about where the client's up to. They prejudge, you know, they start to, oh, that client can't afford it. She's already spent $600 on a package, or, you know, so I'm not going to suggest any retail, or, you know, they start to prejudge clients. And, you know, we all know that this is not a very successful path. And, you know, Janine even said, you know, I want to understand my clients better. How do I do that in a short amount of time? How do I get them to open up? How do I get them to close the sale? It's an area that particular Janine and I did quite a bit of work on because she was really struggling and really feeling quite uncomfortable, and it was affecting her day. It was genuinely taking some of the enjoyment out of the industry that she truly loves. So I helped her with that one, and I'm about to share that with you as well. So the biggest mistake that therapists make is that, well, maybe you've got some experience and, you know, happy to chat with you later about it, but I have to share with you, for me, it's becoming so crystal clear. And that is that they try to close, and let's just, you know, use that term, close as a selling term. So, you know, they try to get agreement with using a statement. And it goes a little bit like this. New client, come in for a consultation. Let's pick an easy one in a safe area of hair removal, and let's pick legs, half leg. And, you know, the client has come in, had a consultation, she shaved first, and we've done our first treatment. You using a laser, and then we say to the client, well, she starts asking about, where do we go from here? And you might say something along the lines of, well, you've got very dark hair and it's very thick in texture. So what I'm going to probably recommend is you're going to need closer to 8, maybe even 10 treatments to really get that ultimate result, where we can really get, good solid hair removal for you. Now, at the moment, we have a promotion where if you buy the pack of 10, you only pay for 8. Yep, and that's exactly what happens. Therapists try to close a sale or reach agreement by putting forward some sort of offer. And they try to make the offer sound really sexy, really interesting, really attractive, really valuable. But what happens when they make this offer is the room goes silent. That's right. And so when you hear your therapist say that, I asked the client, did you want to buy it? And the room just went quiet. This, 9 times out of 10, at least 90% of the time, is the reason. Because what they do is they try to ask the client to buy by making an offer. Where what I know and what you're about to discover, the easiest and smoothest way to reach agreement is to do so with a question, not a statement. Now, some people choose not to use the question because they will fear rejection. But I think some fear silence more than they fear rejection, because what I know is when we actually say, so we have a great offer on at the moment. If you wanted to get that pack of 10, you can have a substantial saving and say 20%, and that would allow you to only have to pay for 8, which would be really good, wouldn't it? Or however, you girls normally try to close it. And then we say something like, how does that sound? Could that work for you? Would you like me to look for some dates for you? Would that fit in your budget? Now, notice how there's this little tiny question on the end, and that's all it is. It's a tiny little question on the end. That's the close. That's the piece that transfers the rite of passage to the recipient to answer. That's it. It's that simple. And it's the one simple thing that I've done with many, many therapists, and it's totally changed the way that they've reached agreement with clients. And especially if they do this in the room, not back at reception, tidy it all up in the room before the treatment's finished or before you physically walk out of the room. Bring it all together and close in the room. So 2 things there, closing in the room, and make sure it is with a question. And when you ask the question, pause and be really curious about the answer that your client's going to give you. That will guide you as to where the buying pattern is going. And in a large percentage of cases, well, again, I can only share with you some results from some of the girls. Angelina, I started asking more questions to close my sales. Sabrina, feeling more confident and comfortable talking to clients. Stephanie, more confidence. Skin sales improving. Thank you. Talia, clients are trusting me more and accepting my recommendations. Exactly, Talia, because you're asking good questions and you're actually listening to them. Hannah, this has helped me improve my closing sales in the room. Thank you. Gold. Marley, by asking better questions, it's easier to gauge what the client's looking for. Exactly. What do you learn when you tell someone something? You actually learn very little. All you know and all you've experienced is you've learned nothing because you're simply telling people what you already know. The way to find out more is to ask really good questions. And Renee, lovely girl from New Zealand I worked with, I found that asking clients more questions and really stopping to listen to them and being genuinely interested has helped gain trust and increase sales. Well, there you go. And Renee has really taken on my training. She's been an absolute star in a very large group of clinics in New Zealand. And she has done tremendously well by taking on some subtle shifts, not change, just subtle shifts in what she's doing. And she's shifting from telling to asking good questions and really listening with curiosity. It's made a massive difference for her. Let's jump on to secret 2. How to close the sale with confidence and avoid the pressure that clients hate. Well, the thing is, now that we've got to understand that bringing the client's conversation and agreement or to a close is to use a question. And I've given you some examples of some very simple questions, but maybe there's some others that I can help you add to your toolbox. And what I mean by that is you've already got some great tools in your toolbox that you use. Tonight's all about adding a few extras. And there's by far the most comfortable phrase, because some people in your team may also still feel uncomfortable by saying, you know, how does that sound? Would you like me to book you in? Would you like me to look at some dates? They might find that approach, it's quite a direct approach, and they might find that approach, again, to be maybe just that little bit too much. So there's a different way, and it's a far more subtle approach. And this is what we call a consultative closing of the conversation, meaning it's done in consultation. It's not a push. It's not from one side. So we really simply do exactly the same offer. You know, we have a package available, and if you wanted to look at booking in for the 10, you can get a 20% saving, and you'd only have to pay for 8. So tell me, Jenny, where would you like to go from here? Now that's it. That's all I want you to do. And this one set of words, along with one others, which I'm going to show you in a moment, are the 2 biggest things that have changed the performance of girls that I work with in the aesthetic industry. They no longer feel uncomfortable about asking the question. They no longer feel uncomfortable about or feeling like they're pushing, because they're not. They actually pull back and actually even step back and say, well, where would you like to go from here? In a very open, respectful gesture. What they used to find was when they leaned forward and tried to close the conversation, the client would actually almost recoil or move back or retreat, and body language would indicate that. What's happening now is clients move towards the therapist. They ask for their opinion and go, well, where do you think I should go? Should I do A or B? You know, well, actually, it's not my pay week this week. Can I start next week? All of these beautiful, natural conversations occur that allows us to, well, reach a closing phrase in our conversation very respectfully and without any pressure. And what we notice is when we allow the client to buy, they mostly buy with a smile on their face, and they recommend and refer you as well. I can think of nothing greater. But please write that one down. That is the absolute pearl. It makes a big, big difference. So think about that and talk about it with your girls and ask them how they may feel using these words. However, there is one caveat. Please, I ask you to adopt these words. In other words, make them yours. Take some ownership over them before you try to adapt them. Most people go, oh, yeah, oh, I'm going to change it around and say it my way. I have to be honest with you, I haven't had as much success when I observe that. But when I observe girls really genuinely taking on and adopting the philosophy and adopting and really desiring to make this whole client journey more comfortable, then I find they get some great results. And then once they've mastered it, their confidence will then allow them to adapt it if they feel, but most times they don't. So please ask your team first and foremost to adopt the new words and make them theirs. They're not Neil's words. They're not your words. They're, you know, Jenny's words. There's the girl on the floor, the young girl who's shy but a really great therapist and loves skin. That's the girl those words are going to make a massive difference with. So we suggest that there's a consultative close is by far the best way. And, you know, it's a phrase that you will find that will work particularly well with a lot of you girls. Secret number 3. Okay. This really gets to the heart of the matter. And it's the heart of the matter that makes the difference, because there is a behavior that unfortunately mucks up a therapist's day for the whole day. And it simply goes like this. If they experience this with their first client, let's say 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, that's it. I'm out. I won't be doing any more suggesting, recommending for the rest of the day. I've had it, tools up, I'm just going to go through the motions. And they're almost the exact words that I hear young girls tell me when they experience this, because this is by far the toughest of all, and that is, how do your team handle the word no? Most, I find, take it to heart. Most, I find, feel personally rejected and really uncertain as to where to go. And it definitely doesn't add to their day. It detracts, if I could put it to you this way, it detracts from their mindset. And regardless of how buoyant they may have felt at the beginning of the day, they definitely do not feel this now when they experience a no. But my message to you is no is not necessarily rejection, because all we hear is the no. All we do is we attach that no to all of the other uncomfortable emotions that we've experienced in the past and the ones that come flooding back. But quite often no is just not now. And we've reacted so quickly to the no that we don't actually get to hear the not just now bit. And as soon as we hear no, we straight away go, oh, well, oh, look, it's okay. Maybe what we can do is we can think about it for next time, and we can, I can write it down on your card. And you know, we almost move into this very apologetic space. And it's a space that young girls in particular really recoil and really feel quite uncomfortable, and it deflates them. Let's just be frank. It really deflates them. They feel flat and unenergized for the rest of the day. And your average client transactions have now just shrunk because they're now just going to do what the client asks, and that's it. Let me teach you a very important skill. From today forward, I need to ask you to ask your girls and ask the people in your team that when they hear the word no, and by the way, no is not just no, it's not now, not today, or any pushback, any rebuttal, any, it's not a disagreement, but any no, any form of no. I think I'll leave it, or maybe is a classic about, people using maybe because they don't want to, well, normally people who use maybe, those are trying to avoid confrontation. So rather than saying no, they say maybe. So for me, it's the same answer, okay? And the words are 4 words and they must be used, all 4. And we say in a downward tone, that's not a problem. Not no probs, that's too casual, it's too dismissive. This is a very important psychological diffusing phrase. And what I mean by that, it diffuses the pressure. You know, that pressure that, because what's happening is they're connecting your behavior at this point to other bad sales experiences they might have had. And maybe that happened just a few minutes ago in the dress shop because they arrived at the clinic a little bit early and thought they'd just have a browse of some dresses before they actually walked in to see you. So, maybe there is a situation here where they're connecting you to some of the other bad behaviors that they're experienced in the past. So it's very important that we actually handle this no really smoothly. And when you say that's not a problem, you just pause. And even on the telephone, it's a tremendous set of words because you don't know what's going on at the other end. And when you say that's not a problem, what it actually does is you watch the client's body language and they'll actually sigh, or their shoulders will drop because they're ready for, that pushback. Because some salespeople become, well, not argumentative on purpose, but sometimes it ends up that way. And I'm yet to see anybody win an argument but still get the client to buy. It just doesn't happen. You get one or the other. So from today forward, this is the real big one. If you can teach your girls to look upon these by saying that that's not a problem, first and foremost, it releases the pressure from the therapist. Secondly, And more importantly, it releases it from the client, and therefore there's no transfer between these two. But here's the real gold. When you actually say, that's not a problem, you can then say, but may I suggest that we talk about blah, blah, or would you be open to considering maybe adjusting that? Or would you like me to put you on a callback list for when the promotion finishes? Or you can straight away come back with some alternative suggestion or alternative offer. Totally acceptable. All because you've diffused the pressure or the perceived pressure in the conversation. That's not a problem. Get all your girls to use it. It works tremendously well. And especially if you're in a client environment where some of your clients are a bit more assertive, let's call it, and they're coming in telling you what they want, this can be a really good diffusing phrase to neutralize that pressure. So, you know, 3 really important things for you to take on board there. And they're 3 significant things that will definitely have, and I know for a fact, have a very large impact. So let's draw a line in the sand. There's no going back, but more importantly, you know, I don't know why all of you have particularly showed up today. Is it because that, you know, you're frustrated with your offering? You're offering good advice to clients, but, you know, the clients aren't buying. Would you like to improve some of your staff's pain and discomfort around closing, and, you know, for them to have this beautiful, enthusiastic smile on their face? Or is it that you just really need to improve your turnover, and, you know, the new client strategy is working, but, you know, you're just not getting your average client transaction up to where it needs to be? You know, the 5 behaviors we need to focus on is, you know, the upsell, the cross-sell, the rebook, you know, focusing on the therapist's client retention, and of course, the real big profit earner is that retail sale, or as we call it, how we can help a client accelerate their results at home. There's tremendous opportunities, and I've had some really, really impressive and most enjoyable results from some of these larger clinics. So just to do a brief summary for you about this part of it. Firstly, remember that when we go to close the sale or close the consultation, it's a question. It's not a statement. It's not an offer. It's a question. Okay? That's the key. Remember, it always needs to finish with a question, and you then need to be quiet and listen with curiosity about the client's answer. And not be sympathetic, but be empathetic. You get to understand where it's coming from, because for every client it's different. My favorite set of words to help shy and young girls that never learnt at college some of these communication skills, which today are mandatory. They're just absolutely mandatory to operate effectively with public on large. And that is, you know, we want to ask for people how they want to proceed. And you watch when you start to say, where would you like to go from here? You will be amazed how many people will say yes. Because, you know, when you traditionally push, the natural reaction is to say no. I mean, what do you do when you walk into a store and someone says, can I help you? Bingo, words come out and you don't even need to say it. I'm fine, just looking. See, we're programmed to say no, where if we actually start to change our language, we will get a different result. And then the third and the biggest of all was to teach your staff how to handle the word no, and more importantly, rejection. And the term is, that's not a problem. It's just that simple. Practice it. And again, get them to adopt it. Get it to be theirs. Get it so that they feel that it's their words, and it will come across with so much more integrity and sincerity. And more importantly, the client will feel that, and you'll experience a tremendous shift, a big shift in your business. So you may be sitting there thinking, well, this all sounds great, Neil, but where to from here? Well, it would be irresponsible of me if I was not to share this part of your program and not share with you some other things that you can do. First and foremost, the most important thing that you need to do is to encourage practice. And that is that don't just go, oh, look, that was great, there's some great ideas, and go back to what you were doing today, but challenge your team in the nicest possible way to practice it. I mean, my son's, rides a skateboard. I must admit, I've never seen him fall off once and then sit on the side and go, oh, that's it, I'm not going to do it anymore. If you've got any of your kids who ride skateboards, what do? They just keep on getting back up. flipping it, trying that new trick, getting up the tail. They are just relentless, and they never stop. That's the resilience that we need to practice to truly learn and to learn to grow and to learn some of these new skills that we've touched on tonight. Different solution though for me is that I find a lot of people also need some support, and it's not right for everybody, but there are definitely clients that I've worked with who, well, they just need a little bit extra support to get across that line, to get across and really start to take ownership of some of these new behaviours. So, I want to put back to the therapists and the hairdressers that have given me such a tremendous life in this industry, and I want to give them what they deserve, and that is some growth, some personal growth, and more importantly, for some, financial growth as well. And the way that we do that is that we've actually created a program around Spendsuasion. Some of the results that we've been enjoying of some of the larger groups is, a 25 to 50% increase in upsells, 10 to 20% in cross-sell. So that's going from, say, hair to skin rejuvenation, or from hair removal to injectables. And the big mover is always in the retail space. However, I must admit, this program is not just about increasing retail. It's really about increasing your upsell and cross-sells. That's where the big profits lie. And, a comment at the bottom here from Megan, who used to be the general manager of Brazilian Butterfly Group we worked with 2 years ago. And that was in the early days of our program. And across their network, we had a 48% increase. And there's a great testimonial as to how our program can truly deliver growth and increase profits for you. The program is designed for you. It's designed to increase your sales, to shift your confidence, to move away from suffering and rejection, to close confidently and be comfortable. It's a beautiful industry. I want you to enjoy it. And I want you to have lots of fun, because when you do, clients' responses change and you start to really enjoy your role. The way our program works, it's this time of the year we do a 4-week course leading into Christmas, because this is the time of the year where you really want everyone to be on their toes. The 4 steps are very simple. Week 1 is we dive into the persuasion model, or the Spendsuasion model, and we really get into understanding the principles. Week 2, we practice and we talk about how to shorten the sales conversation. So many girls talk too much. We then on the Wednesday night have a live phone call for an hour where you can jump in and ask me any question you have, and I will do my best to help you. So again, we can do that through the webinar format. Week 3, how to get to yes, and we practice some of the closes. There's 4 very distinctive closes that I teach in the industry, and they all work tremendously well. They're very comfortable, they're respectful, they're easy phrases for you to use once you understand the principles. And then finally, there's a bonus there where we can do another call to check in to help you. And by the way, those calls are also designed to help you implement. Let's be frank, that's where the gold lies. And then the last week is we handle objections. Very simple rule of 3, and I'll explain that to you. It just changes the way you look upon people giving you objections. I'll even give you some words to use that have worked tremendously well with some of the other girls that I've trained. The program itself is interactive, online webinar. They're 60-minute durations, so a little bit longer than what we're going for tonight. They run from 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock, Australian Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time. And they're on a Tuesday night for 4 weeks, starting next Tuesday night, the 19th, and running through until the 10th of December. Perfect time for you to make the most of your turnover leading into Christmas. All's included, workbooks, specific tasks to be implemented to guarantee your progress, because this is really important. We need to break each week down so that, well, everyone, because by the way, this is for everyone. This program and this course is for everyone in your clinic. It's not just for you. I want you to use this weekly course as a training program for your team so that you can have good open conversations and, talk amongst yourselves as to things that are working. And, we've got a Facebook group for you to help you with your questions and your feedback. And also I record each of the webinars and, more importantly, let you have access to them for the week after the live program, so that your staff can, well, they don't have to all be there. They can interact with it. They can all jump in, or they can watch it on their day off. Whichever way, then you can bring it together and have some team meetings and really get those results that you're looking for. Outcomes, well, you know, as I said, 20 to 50% increase in the upsell, 10 to 20% in the cross-sell, 50% plus in retail sales. I mean, these are all of the clearly measurable KPIs that we work to. However, the other ones, the big achievements have more come through direct feedback. A lot of staff report being less pushy. They learn ways to nurture and encourage the client to close and ask them what they like to buy in the most respectful, polite way that actually work. They get a significant shift in clients saying yes. And if you're like me, when you see lots of girls experiencing yes, what tends to happen is the whole energy in the clinic changes. Everyone becomes a lot more energetic, a lot happier. There's even a bit of a buzz that happens in the clinic. It's really lovely. It'll improve confidence. And really, for some of you that know you're doing really well, it'll give you the opportunity to get some of that recognition that you've been yearning for. 4-week course is $997, so just under $250 a week for 4 weeks. It's a one-off payment, and if you want to make that decision this evening or within 24 hours of this particular webinar, what you'll be able to do is that you will be able to jump in to where I'm about to put into the chat box. Is if you jump onto this particular link and want to do something about that within the next 24 hours, what you'll actually find is that, there we go. Oh, and hi Janae, how are you? I thought it was Neil in Goldman amongst all those others that were running through at the time. So there you go. I hope you're comfortable down there and safe. So there is the link that for others that you may wish to, if you want to sign up for the program. And then finally, the other link that I will give you is if you would, and the special bonus that I wanted to offer you is that if you wanted a copy of my slide deck, all you have to do is to email Sarah in the morning with simply the message that says slide deck, and what's going to happen there is that she will actually email that to you with our compliments. No questions asked. Sarah's awesome. She runs the front desk for me and really handles all of the key client questions that we get. So feel free to use that email address should you want to gain more information from myself or any of our team as we move forward. So for those of you that are on the course, that are on the journey where you still want to participate in this program, really great program for you. Share it with your friends by all means. The course doesn't start until this time next week. So if you have any girlfriends that have got clinics and salons as well, and if you really feel they could benefit from some extra income leading into Christmas, absolutely program for you to be a part of. So in closing, I've run a few minutes over time, but in closing, I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed our deliberation this evening and got to understand that, well, client communication is really about asking questions and really getting to understand your client and where your client's coming from. And when you do, magic happens. And I wish that for you. So all the very best. I hope you have a great night. Lovely to see you. Oh, and good night, Janae, and the others that were there, Jenny, Jennifer, and Sue, and all of the other names that were on the bottom of that chat list earlier. So have a great night. Lovely to see you, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Good night for now. Bye.